Konnichiwa, Japanese Amo no Misa desu. Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to conjugate verbs into the informal negative form. So now with the pandemic and the lockdown, we have to learn this negative form more than ever because there are so many things we don't do or we can't do. Also, in Japanese, people tend to say no, I don't, no, I won't, rather than just saying no, iie, or more informally, because just saying iie or on its own sounds a bit blunt, so it can even sound a bit rude depending on the situation. If you're speaking to somebody who is very close to you, it's okay, but yeah, if somebody says, 後でこれ食べる? Will you eat this later? Saying is okay, but a lot of Japanese people tend to say 食べない. No, I won't eat. Or even without and say 食べないよ. I won't. So I already made the lesson on this topic before, but I wanted to remake it with more information. And I'm going to use lots of useful words that are needed for JLPTM5. So even if you know this topic, maybe watch it to review. Okay, so let's start with the verb 起きる, to wake up, to get up. 起きる. So remember, if you say 起きる, it means I wake up, like I wake up at 7 every day. You would say 毎朝7時に起きる. So the dictionary form is used when you talk about something you do regularly, right? Or about the future. So I can say 明日早く起きる to mean I will wake up early tomorrow. 明日早く起きる. So for something you do regularly or something you will do in the future, you can use the dictionary form. Okay? So let's see the negative form of 起きる. 起きる becomes 起きない. Talking about your day-to-day life, how you don't wake up early. So you can say 早く起きない. And that means I don't wake up early, like in general or every day. Or it can mean I won't wake up. So the future tense as well. So 明日早く起きない. 明日早く起きない means I won't wake up early tomorrow. So how did we get this negative form? We changed the last る into ない, right? 起きる, 起きない. This happens when the verb has いる or える at the end. E sound plus る or え sound plus る. So, for example, 食べる to eat has える sound, right? 食べる. So this becomes 食べない. 食べない. I won't eat or I do not eat. So for example, 魚を食べない means I do not eat fish or I won't eat fish. Or the verb 見る to watch, to see, to look. 見る becomes, can you guess? Change the last root into ない. So 見ない 見ない I don't watch TV. テレビを見ない テレビを見ない Another one. To teach, we say 教える教える So, I don't teach. I will not teach. 教えない教えない This verb 教える can also mean to tell somebody something new or to tell a piece of information. So this verb is used when you give somebody your phone number, for example, as well. So 電話番号を教える means to give your phone number to somebody. And if you want to say, I don't give my phone number to strangers, for example, then you can say, 知らない人に電話番号を教えない。知らない人 is person I don't know, literally, but you can use it like strangers. 知らない人に is the particle that shows direction. So to the person, to people I don't know. 電話番号を教えない。Remember, the verb still comes at the end. So you don't say 教えない電話番号。You say 電話番号を教えない。And this o particle is indicating what the object is in the sentence, right? So if a verb has an iru ending or eru ending, then you change the last ru into nai, right? For the informal speech. But when the verb has, for example, aru, uru, oru at the end instead of iru, eru, aru, uru, oru, then you change the last ru into ra and put nai. So the verb to sell is uru, uru. For this verb, you can't say unai. You have to say uranai, uranai. So what happened is, when the verb doesn't have an iru or eru ending, you change the last u sound into a sound and put nai. So uru became uranai, uru, uranai. I won't sell. 例えば、ピカチュウのぬいぐるみは誰にも売らない。This means I will not sell my Pikachu plushies to anyone. ピカチュウのぬいぐるみ plush は So here I used the wa particle because I wanted to say maybe I sell other things, but Pikachu plushies I won't. Again, I have a lesson on this wa particle, so check it out. But basically, you can also use the wa particle instead of the o particle when the context is right. So, Pikachu no nuigurumi wa, as for my Pikachu plushies, 誰にも to nobody, 売らない I won't sell. So in Japanese, you say 誰にも, which means to nobody, and then you have to repeat the negative form. So it doesn't mean I do not sell it to nobody, which would mean I sell it to somebody. It means I do not sell to anyone. Or another example, for to take a picture, we say 写真を撮る。写真を撮る。撮る again doesn't have an iru or eru sound, right? 撮る、撮る. So you change the last u sound into a sound. So you get 撮らない、撮らない. So 写真を撮らない means I do not take a picture or I won't take a picture. Another example, to become is なる、なる. So for example, I will become a programmer. You say プログラマーになる. We use the に particle after what you become. It's like I turn into, again, like kind of like direction. So プログラマーになる. To negate this, again, you say ならない、ならない。プログラマーにならない。プログラマーにならない。So in other textbooks, verbs that have iru or eru endings are called reverbs. Okay, reverbs. I just want you to remember that not every ru ending verbs is a reverb. That's why I keep saying iru or eru, and the rest aru, uru, oru, because there are only 5 vowels in Japanese, right? A, I, U, E, O. Anyway, can you guess how we would conjugate the verb deru, to exit or to leave? Deru. Deru becomes denai. Denai. So when I want to say I don't leave my house or I don't go out, I can say 家から出ない。家から出ない。家 house から from my house. 出ない not leave. What about the verb 降る, which is used when you want to say, for example, it rains, it will rain. So we say 雨が降る。雨が降る。降る would become 降らない。降らない。So 雨が降らない means it doesn't rain or it will not rain. So 降る doesn't have an iru or ed ending, right? So you have to change the last u sound into a. 降らない。But there are obviously exceptions. But don't worry, not too many, but enough. For example, do you remember the word for stranger? 知らない人。知らない人。Literally a person I don't know, right? 人 person. So the dictionary form of 知らない is 知る。知る and it means to find out. Okay. If you want to say I know, we would say 知っている. So it's a bit confusing, I know. I made a lesson on that too as well, so check it out. But when you want to say I don't know, like I do not have that information, you say 知らない。知らない。So 知る has an いる ending, right? But it's an exception. So it becomes 知らない。知らない。Okay, so that's the exception number 1. And next one. いる as to be needed or to be necessary. This one becomes いらない。いらない。So for example, you want to say, I don't need sugar. Like somebody offers me tea and I want to say, I don't need sugar. I would say, 砂糖はいらない。砂糖はいらない。Again, I used the what particle to emphasize on what I don't need. So I need the tea still, but I don't need sugar. 砂糖はいらない。But be careful. If you mean the other いる, which means to exist, or you use it as there is someone. Okay, so when you want to say someone is present, someone is in a place, you use this verb いる. And then this verb is not an exception. So you change いる into いない when somebody is not somewhere. So for example, I'm not home, I would say うちにいない。うちにいない。This is really confusing, I know, but in general, when you read text, you can tell because when somebody is somewhere, we usually write in hiragana, whilst when you need something, you write in this kanji. Yeah, anyway, if you say うちにいない, then that means I'm not home or somebody is not home. Like お母さんはうちにいない. My mom is not home. If you say うちにいらない, then that means this thing is not necessary for the house. So for example, you're looking at like a statue and your kid is like, Mommy, let's get this statue. And you're like, no, we don't need it for our house. You can say うちにいらない。いらない。Like, we don't need it. Let's just get through the exceptions. Take notes, okay? Another one is 切る。 kiru, to cut. Okay, kiru becomes kiranai, kiranai. So I don't cut my own hair, for example. I would say 自分で髪を切らない。自分で is like by myself. 髪を切らない。I don't cut. Okay, again, be careful with another verb, 着る to wear, to put on. So for example, to put on a t-shirt, you can say T シャツを着る T シャツを着る Okay, so if you want to say I don't wear a t-shirt or I don't wear t-shirts, you say T シャツを着ない T シャツを着ない So the verb 着る as to wear conjugates like other いる ending verbs. So, 見る becomes 見ない You get rid of the last る and put ない right? 着る to wear 着ない切る to cut becomes 切らない着ない切らない Okay, just a few more 帰る to go home, to return becomes 帰らない帰らない Again, it has an える ending, right? Like 教える to teach becomes 教えない right? What's this? 帰る has the same ending, but it's an exception, so you change the last る into らない帰らない I do not go home. So my cousin works for a gaming company and he is very busy, so sometimes he doesn't go home. So he says, 今日は帰らない I won't go home today. 今日は帰らない Alright, the last one, I mean there are more exceptions, but this is the last common verb. しゃべるしゃべる It means to chat, to have a chat. You can use it like 話す to speak, but しゃべる is more focused on the act of having a conversation and it sounds more like you're chatting with somebody rather than you're speaking to somebody for something serious. For example, in a business situation, you don't really しゃべる unless you're trying to be friendly with your customers and trying to have a connection. Then it's a bit different. But yeah, しゃべる is like to chat. This one becomes しゃべらないしゃべらない And although I said the last, but there is more. We have to talk about two more irregular verbs and another exception. And this exception is very important as well. So we talk about the verb いる to exist, right? So ミサ先生は日本にいない That means Misa sensei is not in Japan, right? So いる is used for people, animals, living things. Now, when you talk about something is in a place, so like Pikachu plushies are in my room, you use the verb ある right? And this verb ある becomes ない right? So if we follow the normal rule, ある should become あらない but no, we say ない So if my Pikachu plush is missing and I would say my Pikachu plush is not here, I would say ピカチュウのぬいぐるみがない Okay? Or I stupidly left my laptop at the airport one time. So then I was like パソコンがない My computer is not here, my laptop is not here. Or if you want to say, I don't have money, you can say, お金がない。お金がない。Okay, so before we go into the easy part, let's look at the regular verbs. And don't worry, I know it's a lot of information, but we'll do a review test at the end, so it takes time, don't worry. So the verb to do is する、する。する becomes しない、しない。Maybe it's easy to remember because the must form, the polite form of the verb する is します。Okay, so at least it kind of follows the similar rule. So す becomes し and then you put ない。する、しない。So this rule applies to any verb that has する, okay? So 勉強する is to study. So here it becomes 勉強しない、勉強しない。I don't study or I will not study. Or to cook is 料理する、料理する。So, do you guys cook? 料理する? And if you don't, you can say 料理しない、料理しない。Alright, the second one is 来る to become 来る。来る becomes 来ない、来ない。When your friend comes to visit you, you can say 遊びに来る、遊びに来る。遊ぶ means to hang out, to play. 遊びに means in order to hang out. So, to come in order to hang out, to come visit. So, for example, my friends won't come visit me. Could be because of Corona, right? And then you'd say, 友達は遊びに来ない。友達は遊びに来ない。So now let's take a look at verbs that don't have る endings. So like I said, if a verb has an いる ending or える ending, then you change the last る into ない。But if the verb doesn't have an いる or える ending, you change the last う sound into the あ sound and you put ない。So for example, to write is 書く、書く。漢字を書く。I write 漢字。Okay. I do not write 漢字。You wanna say? 漢字を書かない。漢字を書かない。So, we changed 書く, the last う into あ。書かない。書く、書かない。次、next. 行く to go. If we follow the same rule, it becomes 行かない。行く、行かない。not go. So, I will not go to Japan, you say. 日本に行かない。日本に行かない。If you want to be more specific, like, I will not go to Japan this year, you say. 今年は as for this year. 今年は日本に行かない。今年は日本に行かない。Remember, the word order is usually like time and then object or destination and then the verb. 次, next. To speak. 話す、話す。Not speak, we say. 話さない、話さない。For example, I don't speak with my parents, you'd say. 親と hanasanai. Oya, parent or parents. To is with parents. Oya to hanasanai. 次 to lend, you say 貸す 貸す So I will lend my book to you. You can say 本を貸す本を貸す So for example, I lent my book to my friend. I would say 友達に本を貸す友達に direction to my friend 本を貸す So 貸す becomes 貸さないすさ貸さない次 to drink we say 飲む飲む飲む becomes 飲まない飲まない So I don't drink alcohol say お酒を飲まないお酒を飲まない Remember in English sake means Japanese sake whilst in Japanese sake or osake means any alcoholic beverages So ビールはお酒 Beer is 酒ワインもお酒 Wine is also 酒alcoholic drink Okay now be careful with these two endings I know we have loads of exceptions and irregulars and you might be thinking Misa, you said this will be the last one I'm sorry but you get used to it, don't worry So if the verb has つ at the end, for example, 立つ or 待つ 立つ to stand up, 待つ to wait. Okay? つ becomes た okay? Not つ because we don't have つ sound in Japanese. So 待つ becomes 待たない I do not wait or I will not wait. To stand, 立つ becomes 立たない立たない And the last thing you need to be careful with is if the verb has an う hiragana う ending, the う becomes わ and you put ない So, for example, 買う to buy becomes 買わない買わない Okay, it doesn't become 買わない It becomes 買わない So remember that every Japanese verb has う sound at the end. Right? 書く、行く、話す、来る、する、見る Right? But if the verb has an hiragana う So it's not consonant plus う sound. It's just pure う Then you have to change the う into わ Okay, so 言う to say becomes 言わない言う言わない not say or to meet 会う becomes 会わない会わない Okay, to summarize everything for most verbs you change the last う sound into あ and then put ない right? Like 行く行かない話す話さない Okay, and you gotta be careful with just hiragana う and that's わない言う言わない But if the verb ends with いる or える sound, then you change the last る into ない So the verbs that are called る verbs basically So 見る見ない寝る寝ない right? Get rid of the る and put ない But remember that there are verbs that have る at the end but not る verbs So they are aru, uru, oru verbs. Then instead of just change ru into nai rule, you get change the last ru into ra, because it just follows the normal other rule, changing the last u sound into a sound. So ru, ra, right? So to become, naru turns into naranai, naranai. And there are some exceptions, but the biggest exception you need to remember is aru becoming nai, right? So when you don't have money, time, a car, you can say something ga nai, okane ga nai, jikan ga nai. So these are the negations of sentences. Jikan ga aru, okane ga aru, right? So aru becomes nai. And then irregulars. Suru becomes shinai. Kuru becomes konai. Okay? It's a lot to take in, but it's okay. We will practice more. Don't worry, nobody gets it like that. Like when I had to learn how to conjugate verbs in Russian, for example, I didn't learn it in a day. It takes time. Like seriously, if you make a mistake, don't worry, because I've met so many people who said like, oh, I'm fluent in Japanese, or yeah, I have business using Japanese, and they still make mistakes. So it's really okay. Don't worry. Alright, that's it for today. We've learned a lot, but I hope this lesson helped you. And in the next video, we are going to learn how to conjugate the past negative form when speaking informally. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and also share it with your friends. And if you could support me on Patreon, I would really appreciate it. Alright, じゃあまたね。バイバイ。